My twin sister married my fiancé when I was in a coma. I woke up replaced. She's now 6 months pregnant. My parents threw me out. They say name the baby after me. My name is Nora. Nora Elizabeth Chen. And I'm about to tell you the story of how I lost everything I ever loved in 3 months while I was asleep. Literally asleep. Unable to wake, unable to fight, unable to do anything but lie in a hospital bed while my identical twin sister, Maya, stole my whole life. I'm sitting in my car right now telling you this, parked outside what used to be my apartment. The apartment I shared with my fiancé Leo for 2 years before the accident. The apartment where I thought we'd start a family someday. The apartment where my sister is now living with my husband. Yes, my husband. Because while I was in a coma, she walked down the aisle in my wedding dress, said my vows, and signed my name on the marriage certificate. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me start from the real beginning. I need to do something first, though. I grabbed my phone and opened the voice memo app. I pressed record because I had a feeling I would need proof of everything about to happen. Call it intuition. Call it the survival instinct of someone who just woke up to find their whole world flipped upside down and shaken until everything fell out. Okay, deep breath. Let me tell you how we got here. I grew up in a small town called Millbrook about 40 minutes outside of Boston. It's one of those towns where everyone knows everyone, where people still wave from their cars, and where gossip spreads faster than a wildfire in dry season. My parents, Vivian and Robert Chen, were seen as pillars of the community. Dad was a heart doctor at the regional hospital. Mom ran a successful interior design business. We lived in a big colonial house on Maple Street with a wraparound porch and a tire swing in the backyard. From the outside, we looked perfect. The Chen family, 2 successful parents, 2 beautiful twin daughters, straight-A students, cheerleaders, homecoming court, the whole package. But here's the thing about twins. People always assume you're the same. They dress you the same. They expect you to like the same things. They call you the twins instead of your actual names. And somewhere along the way, the world decides you're not 2 separate people. You're 2 halves of one whole. That might work for some twins, but Maya and I were never the same. I was the quiet one, the bookworm. I liked staying home on Friday nights reading historical fiction. I wanted to be a journalist. I spent hours on the school newspaper, chasing stories, digging for truth. I was shy around boys and didn't have my first boyfriend until junior year of high school. Maya was the opposite. She was magnetic, loud, always the center of attention. She dated the quarterback. She was prom queen while I watched from the sidelines. She could walk into any room and make everyone turn their heads. She had this laugh that carried across crowded spaces and this way of touching people's arms when she talked that made them feel special. Growing up, I didn't resent her for it. I really didn't. I loved my sister. I thought she loved me, too. We had this bond people talked about, finishing each other's sentences, feeling when the other was in pain. We used to joke that we shared a soul split between 2 bodies. I was so stupid to believe that. Let me tell you about Leo. I met Leo Bennett in college at Boston University. He was studying architecture. I was studying journalism. We were in the same intro to philosophy class freshman year, and he sat next to me because he was late and it was the only seat left. I remember the first thing he ever said to me. He leaned over during the lecture and whispered, "Is this professor actually going to explain what cogito ergo sum means, or is he just going to keep saying it in different accents?" I laughed so hard I snorted. The professor stopped mid-sentence and stared at me. My face turned bright red, and Leo just sat there with a little smile, looking completely unapologetic. After class, he found me in the hallway and said, "I owe you a coffee for getting you in trouble." I said, "You owe me 2 coffees. One for the embarrassment and one for the snort." He laughed and said, "Deal." That coffee turned into dinner. Dinner turned into dating. Dating turned into love, real love. The kind where you can't imagine your life without the other person. The kind where you feel physically incomplete when they're not around. Leo was everything I never knew I wanted. He was tall, like 6'2", with dark curly hair he could never quite control, and warm brown eyes that crinkled at the corners when he smiled. He had this way of making me feel like I was the most interesting person in any room. He actually listened when I talked. He remembered the little things. He surprised me with flowers on random Tuesdays just because he passed a flower shop and thought of me. We dated all through college. We moved in together after graduation. I got a job at a local newspaper covering community events. He started at an architecture firm downtown. We had this little apartment in Brookline with creaky floors and a radiator that banged in the winter and a tiny balcony where we drank coffee on Sunday mornings. It wasn't glamorous, but it was ours. And I loved it. I loved him. I loved our life. Leo proposed on my 26th birthday. We were having dinner at this little Italian restaurant we loved. Nothing fancy, red and white checkered tablecloths, candles dripping wax onto bottles of Chianti. He got down on one knee between the appetizer and the main course. I cried so hard the waiter thought something was wrong. I said yes. Obviously, I would have said yes 1,000 times over. We set the wedding date for September 15th. We had 8 months to plan. My mom went into full wedding planning mode. Maya was going to be my maid of honor. Everything was perfect. Everything was so perfect. And then came March 12th. I remember that morning so clearly. Leo had an early meeting, so he left before I woke up. He kissed my forehead on his way out. I felt it in my half-asleep state and mumbled something about loving him. He said, "Love you too, sleepyhead." Those were the last words we ever exchanged as an engaged couple, as a couple at all. I got ready for work. I had to cover a town council meeting in one of the suburbs. Boring stuff, budget allocations, zoning disputes, the kind of journalism that makes you question your career choices. I got in my car around 9 in the morning. It was raining, not pouring, just that annoying drizzle that makes everything gray and slippery. I was driving down Route 9, thinking about wedding cake flavors because we had a tasting scheduled for that weekend. And then there was a truck, a delivery truck that ran a red light. I didn't even have time to brake. I remember seeing it coming toward me, this massive wall of metal, and thinking, this is it. This is how I go. And then nothing. Complete darkness. I was in a coma for 3 months. 92 days, to be exact. 92 days where I didn't exist. Where I was just a body in a hospital bed, hooked up to machines, kept alive by tubes and wires and the stubbornness of modern medicine. 92 days where I had no idea what was happening in the world, what was happening to my family, what was happening to Leo, what was happening to my entire life. I woke up on June 12th. I know the exact date because it was a Thursday. The nurse in my room when I opened my eyes kept saying, "It's a miracle. It's a Thursday miracle." Waking up from a coma isn't like waking up from sleep. It's not this sudden thing where you just open your eyes and you're fine. It's gradual, confusing, terrifying. First, I could hear voices. Distant, muffled, like they were underwater. Then I could feel things. The scratchy hospital sheets, the pinch of the IV in my arm, the weight of my own body which felt like it belonged to someone else. Then, slowly, I could open my eyes. Everything was blurry. White ceiling, fluorescent lights, a face hovering over me that I couldn't make out. "She's waking up," someone said. "Page the doctor, she's waking up." It took me a while to fully come back. Days, actually. My brain had to remember how to be a brain. My body had to remember how to be a body. I couldn't talk at first, couldn't move much, could barely stay awake for more than a few minutes at a time. But eventually, I stabilized. My vision cleared. My voice came back scratchy and weak, but there. And that's when they started to tell me things. The doctor came first, Dr. Patel. She was kind. She explained the accident, the extent of my injuries, the fact that I'd been in a coma for over 3 months. She said I was lucky to be alive. She said my recovery would be long, but that I was young and strong and the prognosis was good. Then she asked if I wanted to see my family. I said yes. Of course, I said yes. I was desperate to see Leo, to see my parents, to see Maya. I needed to know everyone was okay. I needed them to know I was okay. "Your family's been here every day," Dr. Patel said with a smile. "They never gave up hope." That made me cry. I imagined Leo sitting by my bed, holding my hand, talking to me even though I couldn't respond. I imagined Maya reading to me, my parents praying for me, all of them waiting for me to come back. But when the door opened, only 3 people walked in. My mom, my dad, and Maya. No Leo. I tried to speak, but my voice was still weak. "Where?" I managed. "Where's Leo?" I will never forget the look that passed between my parents and my sister in that moment. This quick, panicked glance, like they were deciding something, like they were communicating in a language I couldn't understand. My mom stepped forward. She took my hand. She had tears streaming down her face. And for a moment, I thought something had happened to Leo. I thought he'd been hurt. I thought he was gone. "Sweetheart," she said, "there's something we need to tell you." And then my dad stepped in. "Vivian, not now, she just woke up. She needs to rest." "She's going to find out eventually," Maya said. I looked at my sister, really looked at her for the first time since waking up. She looked different. She was wearing her hair differently. She'd gained a little weight, but there was something else, something in her eyes, this mix of guilt and defiance that I couldn't place. "Find out what?" My voice was getting stronger. Fear gives you strength, I guess. "What happened? Where's Leo? Is he okay? Is he hurt?" Silence. Long, horrible silence. And then Maya took a breath and said the words that shattered my entire world. "Leo and I are married, Nora. We got married 3 weeks ago. And I'm pregnant." I remember the sound that came out of me. It wasn't a scream. It wasn't a cry. It was this weird animal noise like something being ripped apart. "What?" I couldn't breathe, couldn't think. "What are you talking about?" "That doesn't make sense. I'm engaged to Leo. We're getting married in September." My mom squeezed my hand tighter. "Sweetheart, you've been in a coma. A lot has changed. Leo and Maya, they fell in love. They waited as long as they could. They thought you might not wake up." 3 months, I whispered. "I was asleep for 3 months and he married my sister." "We didn't know if you were going to wake up," Maya said. Her voice was cold, detached, like she was explaining something logical and I was just too stupid to understand. "The doctor said your chances were low." Leo was devastated. We were both devastated. We spent so much time together, grieving you, and feelings developed. "Grieving me? I'm right here." I was trying to sit up. Nurses were rushing in. Monitors were beeping. Everyone was telling me to calm down, to lie back, to breathe. But I couldn't calm down. How could I calm down? "You married him," I said to Maya, my voice shaking so hard I could barely get the words out. "You married my fiancé." "You're having his baby," my dad said. His voice was firm, his doctor voice. "You need to rest. Your body has been through trauma. We can discuss all of this later when you're stronger." Discuss? There's nothing to discuss. This is insane. This is some kind of sick joke. But it wasn't a joke. I could see it in their faces. The guilt, the discomfort, the complete and utter lack of surprise. They'd all known. They'd all accepted it. They'd moved on from me while I was lying in that bed fighting for my life. Why didn't anyone stop this? I looked at my parents. My parents who raised me, who were supposed to protect me. "How could you let this happen?" My mom started crying harder. "We thought you were gone, sweetie. The doctor said there was only a 15% chance you'd ever wake up. We had to start thinking about the future, about what you would have wanted. I would have wanted to wake up to my fiancé. I would have wanted to marry the man I love. I would have wanted my sister to not steal my entire life." "I didn't steal your life." Maya's voice was louder now, defensive. "Leo made a choice. He chose me. He fell in love with me. That's not something I forced. It just happened." "In 3 months, you fell in love and got married and got pregnant in 3 months? Love doesn't follow a timeline, Nora." I laughed, this hysterical, broken laugh. "Get out, all of you, get out of my room." "Nora," my mom started. "Get out." They left one by one, my mom crying, my dad looking exhausted, Maya with that same look of guilt and defiance, like she was sorry but also not sorry at all. And I was alone in a hospital bed in a body I barely recognized, with nothing. Absolutely nothing. The next few days were a blur. Doctors, physical therapists, nurses who looked at me with pity because everyone in the hospital had heard what happened. The patient who woke up from a coma to find her sister had married her fiancé. I was a scandal, a tragedy, a soap opera. I refused to see my family. They came every day. They sat in the waiting room for hours, but I told the nurses to keep them out. I couldn't look at them. I couldn't even think about them without feeling like I was going to shatter into a million pieces. The one person I wanted to see was Leo, and he never came. Not once. I asked the nurses. I asked anyone who would listen. "Has Leo Bennett been here? Has he tried to see me?" The answer was always the same. No. The man who was supposed to be my husband, the man I'd loved for 7 years, couldn't even face me. Couldn't even show up to explain himself. He just disappeared from my life like I'd never existed. On my 5th day of being awake, I finally had enough strength to use my phone. A nurse brought it to me. It had been in my personal effects the whole time. Dead, of course. But they charged it for me. When it turned on, I had hundreds of notifications. Messages from friends, missed calls, voicemails, people who had heard about my accident, people who were praying for me. But buried in all of that, I found something else. A text chain between me and Maya from the day before my accident. The last message I'd sent her was about bridesmaid dresses. "What do you think of sage green? Leo's groomsmen are wearing navy, so it might look good." Her response: "Perfect, I love sage. Can't wait for you to walk down that aisle, sis. You deserve all the happiness in the world." I stared at that message for a long time. She told me I deserved happiness, and then 3 months later, she stole it. I scrolled further back through our messages, looking for something. I don't know what. Clues, maybe. Signs that I'd missed. Red flags that should have told me my sister was capable of something like this. And that's when I found it. A message from Maya to me from about 6 months before my accident. We'd been planning a surprise birthday party for Leo, and she'd written, "He's so lucky to have you. I've always been a little jealous of what you two have. Is that weird to say? You just seem so perfect together. I hope I find something like that someday." I hope I find something like that someday. She had found it, hadn't she? She found exactly what I had because she took it from me. I put the phone down. I couldn't look at it anymore. It was making me feel like I was losing my mind. Instead, I focused on getting better, on getting out of that hospital because I realized something lying in that bed. I couldn't fix anything from here. I needed to get out. I needed to confront Leo. I needed answers. Real answers. Not the sanitized version my family was trying to feed me. Physical therapy was brutal. My body had been immobile for 3 months. My muscles had wasted away. I had to learn how to walk again, how to climb stairs, how to do basic things I'd taken for granted my entire life. But I did it. Day by day, hour by hour. I pushed through the pain because the anger inside me was stronger than anything else. I was discharged from the hospital on July 3rd, 3 weeks after waking up. My parents offered to let me stay with them. Maya had the nerve to suggest I could stay in the guest room at my old apartment, my apartment that she now shared with my fiancé. I said no to both. I used what was left of my savings to get a room at a cheap motel near the hospital. It was depressing. Stained carpet, a bed that dipped in the middle, a TV that only got 4 channels. But it was mine. It was a space where I could think, where I could plan, because I was done being the victim, done being the girl things happened to. I was going to find out the truth, the whole truth, and then I was going to figure out what to do about it. The first thing I did was reach out to my best friend from college, Jenna Roy. She'd been texting me ever since I woke up, leaving voicemails, desperate to see me. She was one of the few people who hadn't moved on from me while I was in that coma. We met at a diner near my motel. When she saw me, she burst into tears and hugged me so hard I thought my ribs might crack. "Nora, oh my gosh, Nora, I can't believe you're okay. I can't believe you're awake." I hugged her back. It was the first real human comfort I'd felt since waking up. "I'm okay," I said. "I'm alive. That's more than I can say for my relationship or my family bonds." She pulled back and looked at me. Jenna had always been the fiery one, with wild curly hair and a temper that could level buildings. She'd never liked Maya, said there was something off about her. I'd always chalked it up to Jenna being protective. I should have listened. "Nora, I am so sorry," Jenna said. "I tried to stop it. I want you to know that. When I found out what was happening, I tried everything I could." I felt a chill run down my spine. "What do you mean you tried to stop it?" We sat down in a booth. She ordered coffee for both of us, and then she told me everything. "It started about a month after your accident," she said. "Leo was a mess, like completely falling apart. He was at the hospital every day holding your hand, talking to you. We all thought he was handling it as well as anyone could." I felt tears prick my eyes. So he had been there in the beginning. "And then Maya started coming around more," Jenna continued. "At first, it seemed normal. She was your sister. Of course, she'd be there. But then I started noticing things. The way she'd touch his arm, the way she'd laugh at things he said, the way she'd find reasons to be alone with him. She was making a move on him while I was in a coma. Yeah, she was. And Leo, I don't know if it was grief or loneliness or what, but he started responding to it. By the second month, they were basically inseparable. People were talking. Friends were concerned. I confronted Maya about it. "What did she say?" Jenna's face hardened. "She told me to mind my own business. She said Leo needed support and she was providing it. She said I was being paranoid and jealous." Jealous. She actually said that? She said I was jealous because I'd never liked her and I was using the situation to turn people against her. I shook my head. That sounds like Maya. And then came the wedding. My stomach dropped. "Tell me." Jenna reached across the table and took my hand. "Nora, there's something you need to know, something your family definitely hasn't told you." "What?" She took a deep breath. "Maya didn't just marry Leo. She married him as you." I didn't understand. "What do you mean, as me?" "She pretended to be you, Nora. At the ceremony, she used your name, your identity. She told the officiant that she was Nora Chen. She signed your name on the marriage license. Legally, the marriage is between Leo Bennett and Nora Elizabeth Chen, not Maya." The world tilted. I grabbed the edge of the table to steady myself. "That's not possible," I whispered. "That's identity fraud. That's against the law. How could she even do that?" "You're identical twins," Jenna said. "Same face, same voice, same birthday. The only people who could tell you apart were people who knew you well. And everyone who knew you well was apparently in on it. My parents knew. Your parents were at the wedding, Nora. They walked her down the aisle." I felt like I was going to be sick. Actually, physically sick. My parents, my own parents, they'd watched my sister steal my identity and they'd participated. They'd given her away at the altar like she was me. Why? It was the only word I could manage. "Why would they do this?" Jenna sighed. "From what I've pieced together, they justified it as some kind of protection. Maya convinced everyone that if you ever woke up, you'd be too traumatized to be with Leo anyway, that it would be better if there was a clean break. And this way, if you didn't wake up, Leo would have legal claim to your shared stuff as your widower. As my widower, I'm not dead. They thought you might as well be. The doctors weren't optimistic, Nora. Your parents were already starting to plan your funeral." I put my head in my hands. This couldn't be real. This couldn't actually be happening. "So, legally," I said slowly, "Leo is married to me, not to Maya." "Technically, yes. The marriage license says Nora Chen, but Maya signed it. So it's also a fake document. It's a whole mess." "Why didn't you go to the police or tell someone?" Jenna looked down at her coffee. "I did, Nora. I went to the police." I tried to file a complaint, but your parents got involved. They have money. They have influence. They convinced the police it was a family matter that should be handled privately, and then they told me that if I kept causing problems, they'd make sure I regretted it. They threatened you. Not in so many words, but yeah. Basically, your dad knows a lot of powerful people. I'm a freelance graphic designer. I can't afford to make enemies like that. I sat back in the booth. My mind was racing, trying to process all of this information, trying to figure out what it meant. So what do? I asked. How do I fix this? Jenna leaned forward. You fight back, Nora. You've got more power here than you think. That marriage license has your name on it. You could argue that Maya committed identity theft, fraud, forgery. If you wanted to, you could probably get her into serious trouble, but she's pregnant. That's not my problem. She made her choices. I thought about that. Maya in handcuffs, going to jail while pregnant with Leo's baby. Part of me wanted that. The angry, hurt, betrayed part of me wanted her to suffer like I was suffering. But there was another part of me, the part that remembered growing up with her, sharing a room, sharing secrets, believing that no matter what happened, we'd always have each other. That part of me wasn't sure what it wanted. I need to talk to Leo first, I said. I need to hear his side of this. Are you sure that's a good idea? No, but I need to do it anyway. I went to the apartment that night. My apartment, the one I'd shared with Leo, the one that still had my stuff in it, according to Jenna. My clothes, my books, my photos. Maya had just moved in. She hadn't bothered to erase me yet. I stood outside for a long time looking up at the windows. 3rd floor. The light was on. Someone was home. I texted Leo. Simple, direct. We need to talk. I'm outside. 3 dots appeared, then disappeared, then appeared again. Finally. Nora, I can't. Then I'm coming up. I didn't wait for a response. I used my key. It still worked. Why wouldn't it? Legally, this was still my home. The elevator felt like it took forever. When it opened on the 3rd floor, I walked to our door. The door I'd walked through 1,000 times. The door that led to my life. I knocked. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then I heard footsteps. The door opened and there was Leo. He looked terrible. He'd lost weight. There were dark circles under his eyes. His hair was longer than I'd ever seen it. He looked like a man who hadn't slept in months. When he saw me, his face crumpled, just completely fell apart. Nora, his voice was barely a whisper. Oh gosh, Nora. Can I come in? He stepped aside. I walked into the apartment. It was the same. Everything was the same. The couch where we used to watch movies. The kitchen where we'd cook dinner together. The photos on the walls, our photos. Leo and me smiling, happy in love. They were still up. Maya hadn't taken them down. She's not here, Leo said. She's at her prenatal appointment. I know, I watched her leave. He winced. You were watching. I wanted to talk to you alone. Figured this was my only chance. We stood there in the living room, this vast, awkward distance between us. 2 people who used to know each other better than anyone. Now strangers. How could you do this? I asked. My voice was calmer than I expected. How could you marry my sister while I was in a coma? How could you pretend she was me? Leo sat down heavily on the couch. He put his head in his hands. I don't know, he said. I don't know, Nora. I was so lost when the accident happened, when they told me you might never wake up. Something broke inside me. So you decided to replace me with my twin. It wasn't like that. Not at first. Maya was just there. She looked like you. She sounded like you. And when I was with her, I could pretend just for a moment that you were still with me. I felt sick. That's not love, Leo. That's delusion. I know. He looked up at me. There were tears in his eyes. I know that now, but at the time I was drowning, and Maya was the only thing keeping me afloat. She manipulated you. Maybe, probably, but I let her. I let her because it was easier than facing the truth that I might have lost you forever. You didn't lose me. I woke up. I know, and I don't know what to do now. Maya's pregnant. She's having my baby. I can't just walk away from that. You walked away from me. You were in a coma, Nora. His voice cracked. You were lying in a hospital bed with machines keeping you alive. The doctor said there was almost no chance you'd ever wake up. What was I supposed to do? Wait forever? Waste my entire life hoping for something that might never happen? It was 3 months, Leo. Not 3 years, not 3 decades. 3 months, and you couldn't even wait that long. He had no answer for that. What answer could there be? I walked around the apartment, looking at things, touching things. A mug I used to drink tea from. A blanket we bought together at a flea market. Little pieces of a life that was supposed to be mine. I want you to know something, I said finally. The marriage certificate has my name on it. Maya signed it as me. That means legally you're married to me, not her. Leo's face went pale. What? You didn't know? She said it was just a formality, that she was using your name because the wedding was already planned in your name. She said she'd fix it after. She lied to you, Leo, the same way she lied to everyone. You're legally married to someone who was in a coma. The whole thing is fraud. He stood up, started pacing. That can't be right, that can't be legal. We need to fix this. Maya doesn't want to fix it, I've already asked. She says she's keeping the marriage. My family says she deserves happiness too. This is insane. Welcome to my world. I turned to face him. This man I'd loved. This man I'd planned to spend my life with. This man who'd given up on me the moment things got hard. I could report this to the police, I said. I could have Maya arrested for identity theft and fraud. I could have the marriage canceled by force. I could destroy her. Nora, she's pregnant. I know she's pregnant, Leo. Everyone keeps reminding me that she's pregnant, like her pregnancy is supposed to make up for what she did. Like the fact that she's carrying your baby is supposed to make me forgive and forget. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying, please think about what you're doing. What about what she did? What about what you did? He didn't answer, just stood there looking helpless. And that's when I realized something that should have been obvious from the start. Leo was weak. He'd always been weak. I just never saw it because things had always been easy. But the moment things got hard, the moment life threw something unexpected at us, he crumbled. He ran to someone else. He gave up. This wasn't a man I wanted to fight for. I'm not going to destroy Maya, I said. Not for your sake, not for anyone's sake, but I'm not going to make this easy either. I want the truth, all of it. I want to know exactly what happened while I was asleep. And then I'm going to decide what to do. I walked out of the apartment, my apartment, the apartment I'd never live in again. Behind me, I heard Leo calling my name, but I didn't look back. I couldn't look back. I had work to do. Over the next few weeks, I became a journalist again. But this time, the story I was investigating was my own life. I tracked down everyone who had been at the wedding. Friends, family, coworkers, anyone who might have seen something, heard something, known something. Most people didn't want to talk to me. They were embarrassed, ashamed. They'd all known what was happening, and they'd all let it happen. Some had even helped. But a few people were willing to talk. A few people felt guilty enough to give me pieces of the truth. And slowly, I started to put together a picture of what really happened during those 3 months. It was worse than I'd thought. Leo's best friend, a guy named Kyle, who I'd always considered a friend too, was one of the first people willing to talk. We met at a bar, neutral territory, and he told me everything he knew. It started at the hospital, Kyle said. Maya would show up when Leo was there. At first, she was supportive, bringing him food, making sure he was taking care of himself, normal stuff. And then she started changing. She started wearing her hair like you, started dressing like you, started using phrases you always used. It was creepy, Nora, like she was becoming you. I felt a chill. Leo didn't notice. Leo was a mess. He wasn't sleeping, wasn't eating. I don't think he was thinking clearly at all. And Maya was right there, looking just like you, acting just like you. I think his brain just accepted it. When did they start being more than friends? Kyle looked uncomfortable. About 6 weeks in. Leo told me he'd kissed her. He was crying when he told me. Said he felt like he'd cheated on you, but Maya convinced him it was okay, that you would have wanted him to be happy, that she was like a gift you'd left behind. A gift I left behind, I was still alive. I know, we all knew, but the doctors kept saying you weren't going to wake up, and Maya was very persuasive. She convinced everyone that this was what was best for Leo, for her, even for you. How is any of this best for me? Kyle couldn't answer that. The next person I talked to was more surprising. Leo's mom, Patricia. Patricia Bennett had always been kind to me. She'd welcomed me into the family, helped Leo pick out my engagement ring, cried with happiness when we announced we were getting married. I'd considered her a second mother. When I called her, she started crying immediately. Nora, oh Nora, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry. Can we meet? I need to understand what happened. We met at her house, the house where Leo grew up. The house where I thought I'd spend Christmases for the rest of my life. Patricia looked old, like she'd aged years and months. When she saw me, she hugged me for a long time. I tried to stop it, she said. I want you to know that. When I realized what was happening, I told Leo it was wrong. I told him you were still alive, still fighting. I told him to wait, but he didn't listen. Maya, she had this hold on him. I don't know how to explain it. It was like he was under some kind of spell. Anything she said, he believed. Anything she wanted, he did. I barely recognized my own son. Why didn't you do more? Call the police? Refuse to participate? Patricia's face crumpled. Your parents, they came to me. They said if I interfered, they'd make sure Leo lost his job. Robert has connections everywhere. They said they'd destroy him. They threatened their future son-in-law. They weren't thinking of him as their son-in-law anymore, Nora. They'd already decided you were gone. In their minds, Leo was going to be Maya's husband, and they were willing to do anything to make sure that happened. I sat back, tried to process this. My parents, my own parents, threatening people to protect Maya's relationship with my fiancé. Why? I asked. Why would they do this for Maya? Patricia hesitated. There's something else you should know, Nora. Something that might explain things. What? Maya, she tried to hurt herself a few years ago before you and Leo got engaged. Your parents found her just in time. She was hospitalized for a few weeks. I felt like the floor had dropped out from under me. What? When? I never knew about this. Your parents kept it quiet. They were ashamed. But since then, they've been protective of Maya. Maybe too protective. I think they're afraid of what might happen if they deny her anything, if they stand in her way. So they let her steal my life because they were afraid she'd hurt herself if they didn't. I think it's more complicated than that. But yes, essentially. I left Patricia's house feeling more confused than ever. On one hand, I had sympathy for Maya's struggles. Mental health issues are serious. I wouldn't wish that kind of pain on anyone. But on the other hand, having struggles doesn't give you the right to destroy someone else's life. Having trauma doesn't excuse creating more trauma for others. Maya was a grown woman. She made choices, deliberate, calculated choices, and she needed to face the consequences. I just had to figure out what those consequences should be. The twist came about 3 weeks into my investigation. I was going through old emails looking for anything that might be relevant when I found something strange. An email from an address I didn't recognize, sent to Maya about a week before my accident. I'd gotten access to Maya's email through, let's just say, creative means. Jenna knew a guy who knew a guy, the kind of thing journalists do when they need information. The email was from someone named Dr. Theodore Walsh. It read, Miss Chen, I wanted to follow up on our conversation. As I mentioned, the medication I've prescribed can have serious side effects, including mood changes and poor judgment. Please take it as directed and report any unusual symptoms immediately. I'm also concerned about some of the things you mentioned in our session. I strongly encourage you to discuss these feelings with a therapist. Your sister's upcoming wedding seems to be triggering significant emotional distress. Maya's sister's upcoming wedding. My wedding was triggering emotional distress for Maya. I started digging deeper. More emails to Dr. Walsh. More appointments, more prescriptions. And then I found it. An email from Maya to herself. Dated 3 days before my accident. A draft that was never sent to anyone. Just saved in her drafts folder like a journal entry she typed out to process her thoughts. I can't stop thinking about it. The wedding. Leo. Nora, it's not fair. It's never been fair. She always gets everything. The good grades without trying. The perfect boyfriend, the fairy tale love story. And what do I get? Nothing. Scraps. I'm always second, always less than. But maybe that can change. Maybe there's a way to make things right. Dr. Walsh says I should talk to someone. But what would I even say? That I'm jealous of my twin sister. That I wish I had her life. That sometimes when I look at Leo, I imagine he's looking at me and not her. No one would understand. But maybe they don't have to understand. Maybe I just have to be patient. Maybe I just have to wait for my moment. I read that email over and over. Wait for my moment. What did that mean? I kept digging. Maya's search history from around that time, saved because she'd never thought to clear it, never thought anyone would look. How to tell identical twins apart. Inheritance laws for unmarried couples. How long do coma patients usually survive? Life insurance policies on fiancés. And the one that made my blood run cold. Brake fluid tampering. I sat there staring at my laptop screen, unable to move, unable to breathe. Brake fluid tampering, my accident, the one that put me in a coma, the one that changed everything. Had it really been an accident? I called Jenna immediately. I need you to find out everything you can about my car accident, I said. Police reports, witness statements, anything. Nora, what's going on? I think Maya might have tried to hurt me. Silence. Then you mean like? I don't know. I don't want to jump to conclusions, but I found some things, disturbing things, and I need to know the truth. Jenna's guy came through again. Within a few days, I had copies of the police report from my accident. It was ruled an accident. A delivery truck ran a red light. Open and shut case. But there was a note buried in the report. Something the investigating officer had flagged, but apparently not followed up on. Vehicle shows signs of delayed braking response. Recommend mechanical inspection. The car had been totaled in the crash. No inspection was ever done. By the time anyone might have looked into it, the car had been scrapped. I couldn't prove anything. Not definitively. Not in a way that would hold up in court. But I knew deep in my gut. I knew Maya had done something to my car. She'd made sure I couldn't stop. She'd put me in that coma on purpose, and then she'd swooped in and taken everything I had. The question now was what to do about it. I thought about going to the police, but what evidence did I have? Some search history, an unsent email, the word of someone who'd recently woken from a coma and might easily be painted as unstable or paranoid. My parents had money and influence. They'd protected Maya before. They'd protect her again. I needed another approach. I started building a file. Every piece of evidence I'd collected, every interview I'd conducted, every email, every text, every suspicious search. And then I reached out to some old journalism contacts. Specifically, I reached out to a woman named Catherine Park. She was an investigative journalist at a major news network. We'd met years ago at a journalism conference and stayed in touch. She was known for taking on stories that others were afraid to touch. I sent her an email with the subject line, "I have a story you won't believe." She responded within an hour. We met the next day. I told her everything from the beginning. The accident, the coma, waking up to find my life stolen, the investigation, the evidence. Catherine listened without interrupting. When I was done, she sat back and let out a long breath. "This is incredible," she said, "and by incredible, I mean horrifying. I know it sounds crazy. It doesn't sound crazy, Nora. It sounds like a story that needs to be told." "What do you mean?" "I want to do a full investigation, documentary style, interviews, evidence analysis, expert opinions, the whole thing." I hesitated. "That would destroy Maya. It would destroy my family." "Your family helped destroy your life. Don't you think the world deserves to know the truth?" I thought about it, really thought about it. Going public would mean exposing everything. Not just Maya's crimes, but my parents' part in it, Leo's weakness, all the messy, ugly details of what had happened while I was asleep. It would be a scandal, a massive public scandal that would follow all of us for the rest of our lives. But maybe that was exactly what needed to happen. "Okay," I said, "let's do it." The next few months were a whirlwind. Catherine's team dug deeper than I ever could have on my own. They found more evidence, more witnesses, more pieces of the puzzle. They found a mechanic who remembered working on my car a week before the accident. He'd been asked to do a routine inspection by a woman who matched Maya's description. He couldn't say for sure if anything had been tampered with, but he remembered thinking it was strange that she'd brought in her sister's car without telling her sister. They found another therapist Maya had seen, one who was willing to talk with proper legal protections. This therapist revealed that Maya had been obsessing over Leo for years, that she'd fantasized about being in my place, that she'd expressed thoughts that were concerning enough to flag in her file. They found financial records showing that Maya had researched life insurance policies extensively before my accident, that she'd even started filling out an application for a policy on my life with herself as the person to receive the money. She'd never submitted it, but the digital trail was there, and they found Leo. Leo, who had been hiding from me since that night in the apartment. Leo, whom I had been keeping isolated from anyone who might challenge her story. Catherine's team got him alone. They showed him the evidence. They asked him to tell the truth, and he broke. In a recorded interview, Leo admitted everything. That Maya had pursued him aggressively after my accident, that she'd convinced him I wasn't coming back, that she'd pushed for the wedding, insisted it had to happen quickly before anyone could interfere. He admitted that he'd had doubts, that part of him knew it was wrong. "But Maya had ways of making me forget those doubts," Leo said, tears streaming down his face. "Ways of making me believe that this was what was meant to be. She was so convincing. She made me believe this was fate, that Nora would have wanted this, that we were honoring her by being together." "Do you still believe that?" Catherine asked. Long pause. "No, I don't think I ever really believed it. I think I just wanted an excuse to not feel the pain anymore." The documentary aired on a Tuesday night in October. I watched it alone in my motel room, the same motel I'd been living in for months. I'd turned down offers of better places to stay, turned down money from lawyers who wanted to represent me, turned down everything except the truth. The documentary was devastating. It laid out the whole story. The accident, the coma, the wedding, the evidence of tampering, the cover-up by my family. By the end, anyone watching would come to the same conclusion I had, that Maya Chen had deliberately harmed her twin sister in order to steal her life, and that the people who should have protected me had helped her do it. The reaction was immediate. The story went everywhere overnight. Social media exploded. News outlets picked it up and ran their own coverage. Within days, everyone seemed to know who I was. Nora Chen, the woman whose sister tried to steal her life. The police launched an official investigation. This time, there was too much public pressure for my parents to make it go away. Maya was questioned again, then arrested. She was charged with identity theft, fraud, and after the investigation deepened, attempted assault with a vehicle. The prosecution couldn't prove she'd tampered with my brakes directly, but they found enough indirect evidence to make a strong case. My parents were also investigated. They weren't charged criminally, but their reputations were destroyed. My dad's medical practice lost half its patients. My mom's business went under. They became outcasts in the community they'd spent their whole lives building. And Leo testified against Maya in exchange for not being charged with fraud. He gave up any claim to my things, signed away his rights to the marriage, and then disappeared. Last I heard, he'd moved to another state to start over. The baby was born during the trial, a little girl. Maya named her Hope. Hope, The nerve of that name still makes me shake my head. Maya was convicted on all counts. She was sentenced to 8 years. Because of the pregnancy and her mental health history, she was placed in a low-security facility with access to counseling and support. More than she deserved, in my opinion, but at least there was justice. You'd think that would be the end of the story. Bad person punished, good person cleared. Credits roll. But life isn't that simple. After the trial, after the media frenzy died down, I was left alone with the wreckage of my life. I had no family. My parents had shown their true colors and I couldn't forgive them. They'd chosen Maya over me when it mattered most. I had no relationship. Leo was gone, and even if he hadn't been, I couldn't have trusted him again. How could I trust someone who'd given up on me so easily? I had no home. The apartment belonged to ghosts now. I couldn't go back there. All I had was myself and the knowledge of what I'd survived. I moved away from Millbrook, away from Boston, away from everything I'd ever known. I ended up in a small coastal town in Oregon, far from anyone who knew my story, far from any reminders of what I'd lost. I got a job at the local newspaper. Small town stuff, community events, school board meetings, not glamorous but honest work. I rented a little cottage near the beach. It had creaky floors and a radiator that banged in the winter and a tiny balcony where I could drink coffee and watch the waves. It reminded me of the apartment I'd shared with Leo, but it was mine. Only mine. One morning, about a year after the trial, I was walking on the beach when I met someone. His name was Eli. He was a marine biologist who worked at a research station nearby. He was walking his dog, this silly golden retriever named Skipper, who immediately jumped on me and got sand all over my jacket. "I'm so sorry," Eli said, grabbing Skipper's collar. "He has no manners, none at all." I was laughing. "It's fine, I like dogs." We started talking, walking together, Skipper running ahead and circling back, making sure we stayed together. Eli was nothing like Leo. He was quiet, thoughtful. He listened more than he talked. He didn't try to impress me or charm me. He just was who he was. We became friends first, then more than friends. It was slow, careful. I was terrified of trusting someone again, of being hurt again. Eli understood that. He never pushed, never demanded more than I could give. "I read about what happened to you," he admitted one night, months into our relationship. "I looked you up," I tensed. And I think you're the strongest person I've ever heard of. Someone who had every reason to give up on people. But you didn't. You're still here, still trying. That takes incredible strength or incredible stubbornness." He smiled. "Maybe a little of both." I told him my story, all of it. The parts the documentary covered and the parts it didn't. The nightmares I still had. The way I sometimes woke up gasping, convinced I was still in that coma, still trapped in the darkness. He listened. He held my hand. He didn't try to fix me or save me. He just let me be broken in his presence. And somehow that was exactly what I needed. It's been 3 years now since I woke up from that coma. Maya is still in prison. She's eligible for parole in 2 years. I've been asked if I'll speak at her hearing. I haven't decided yet. My parents have reached out multiple times, letters, emails, voicemails, begging for forgiveness, claiming they've changed, that losing both their daughters has taught them what really matters. I don't respond. Maybe someday I will. Maybe I'll find it in me to forgive them, but not today, not yet. Leo sends me a Christmas card every year, just a card. No letter, no personal message, just his name. I don't know what it means. Maybe he's apologizing. Maybe he's trying to stay connected. Maybe he just doesn't know what else to do. I throw them away without opening them. And hope. Leo's daughter, Maya's daughter, my niece. She's being raised by Maya's paternal grandmother, a woman I've never met. I think about reaching out sometimes, about meeting this little girl who exists because of the worst thing that ever happened to me. But I'm not ready for that. I don't know if I'll ever be ready for that. What I do know is this: I survived. I survived the accident. I survived the coma. I survived waking up to find my life stolen. I survived the investigation, the trial, the media storm. I survived losing everything and everyone I loved. And I built something new. It's not the life I planned. It's not the life I dreamed of. But it's mine, completely mine. No one can take it from me. I'm sitting on my balcony right now looking out at the ocean. Eli is inside making breakfast. Skipper is asleep at my feet. The sun is rising over the water, painting everything gold and pink and orange. And I'm alive. Against all odds, against everything that tried to destroy me, I'm alive. There's a lot I don't know about the future. A lot of uncertainty, a lot of fear. But there's also hope. Real hope. Not the twisted version my sister named her daughter. Real hope for real happiness. And maybe that's enough. Maybe after everything, that's more than enough. I'm going to go have breakfast with the man I love in the home we're building together in this town, where no one knows me as the coma victim or the twin sister story or any of the other labels that got attached to me. Here, I'm just Nora, the journalist, the girl with the big dog. The woman who drinks too much coffee and takes long walks on the beach. Just Nora. And that's exactly who I want to be. The end. No, wait, not quite. There's one more thing. Last month, on the anniversary of my accident, I did something I'd been thinking about for a long time. I went back to that intersection, the one where the truck hit me, where my old life ended and this strange new life began. I stood on the corner and watched the cars go by, the traffic lights changing, the normal flow of a normal day. It looked so ordinary, so unremarkable. You'd never know that this spot had changed everything for me. I stood there for a long time, feeling the sun on my face, feeling the wind in my hair, feeling alive. And then I said goodbye out loud. To no one, to everyone. Goodbye to the life I lost. Goodbye to the person I was. Goodbye to the dreams that died here. I took a deep breath and said hello to whatever comes next. Then I got back in my car and drove home. To Eli, to Skipper, to my cottage by the sea, to my new life, the one no one can ever take from me. That's my story, the whole story. Every ugly, painful, unbelievable part of it. I don't know why I needed to tell it. Maybe just to get it out of my head. Maybe to remind myself how far I've come. Maybe to let other people know that even when the worst happens, even when you lose everything, you can still find your way back. You can still find yourself. So if you're going through something right now, if someone has betrayed you, if someone has hurt you, if you feel like your whole world has been ripped away and you don't know how to go on, please know that it's possible. It's so hard, but it's possible. You can survive this. You can build something new. You can find your way to the other side. I believe that because I lived it. And if I can do it, so can you. Okay, now I'm done for real this time. Thanks for listening. This is Nora Chen signing off. Update. I'm writing this edition about 6 months after I first shared my story. A lot of people asked me to let them know what happened with certain things. So, here's what's new. Maya's parole hearing happened last month. I was asked again if I wanted to speak. I thought about it for a long time, talked to Eli about it, talked to my therapist about it. In the end, I decided to go. Not to argue against her parole, not to demand she serve more time, but to say my piece. To look her in the eye and tell her what she took from me. The hearing room was small. Gray walls, fluorescent lights. Maya sat at a table with her lawyer. She looked different than I remembered. Older, thinner, her hair had grown out, darker than mine now. When they called me to speak, I stood up and walked to the podium. My hands were shaking. I could feel Maya's eyes on me. I'm Nora Chen, I said. And 5 years ago, while I was in a coma, my twin sister married my fiancé, pretending to be me. The board members nodded. They knew the story. Everyone knew the story. I'm not here to talk about what she did, I continued. I think the courts have established that pretty clearly. I'm here to talk about what happened after. I looked at Maya. She was staring at the table, wouldn't meet my eyes. For a long time, I wanted revenge. I wanted you to suffer the way I suffered. I wanted you to feel as lost and alone and betrayed as I felt when I woke up from that coma. Maya flinched, still didn't look up. But that's not what I want anymore, because I've learned something in the past few years. Holding on to anger is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to get sick. It doesn't hurt you, Maya. It hurts me. Now she looked up. There were tears in her eyes. So I'm letting go, not for your sake, for mine. I'm releasing you from the prison in my heart. I'm moving on with my life. I took a breath. I don't know if you should get parole. That's not my decision to make. But I wanted you to know that whatever happens, I'm going to be okay. I've found happiness despite what you did. I've built a life you can never touch. I gathered my notes, prepared to leave. One more thing, I said. Hope, your daughter. She's innocent in all of this. She didn't choose her parents. She didn't choose her circumstances. If you get out of here, I hope you'll be a better mother to her than you were a sister to me. I hope you'll break the cycle. Maya was crying now, silently, tears running down her face. That's all I have to say, I told the board. Thank you for listening. I walked out of that hearing room and I felt lighter than I had in years. Like I'd put down a weight I didn't even know I was carrying. Maya was denied parole, not because of anything I said, but because of her behavior in prison. Apparently, she'd gotten into several fights with other inmates, had trouble following rules. The same patterns that had destroyed our relationship were destroying her life in there, too. She'll be eligible again in 2 years. Maybe she'll get it then. Maybe she won't. Either way, it's not my problem anymore. My life has continued in the best possible ways. Eli proposed last spring on the beach during a sunset walk with Skipper barking excitedly in the background. I said yes. We're getting married next summer. Small ceremony, just close friends and a few family members. Eli's family, who have welcomed me with open arms. And no, before you ask, I'm not having a maid of honor. Some traditions just aren't worth keeping. I also got a promotion at the paper. I'm now the editor of the feature section. Still small town stuff, but it's mine. I'm building something, making a difference in my community. Jenna came to visit last month. She's doing well. started her own design firm, has a boyfriend she's crazy about. We spent the weekend hiking and catching up and promising not to let so much time pass between visits. I even heard from Kyle, Leo's friend, the one who told me what happened during my coma. He reached out to apologize again, said he'd always regret not doing more to stop what happened. I told him I forgave him. It felt good to say it, to mean it. What I haven't done is reach out to my parents. They're still in Millbrook, still trying to rebuild their lives. My dad retired from medicine. My mom sells real estate now. Small houses, nothing fancy. They send me letters occasionally, updates on their lives, requests to talk. I'm not ready. I don't know if I'll ever be ready, but I've stopped saying never. Because if this experience has taught me anything, it's that you can't predict the future. You can't know what you'll feel 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 20 years from now. All you can do is live in the present. Make choices that feel right today and trust that tomorrow will take care of itself. So that's where I am now. Living, growing, healing. Still a work in progress, still figuring things out, but moving forward one day at a time. And honestly, I'm happy. Really, truly happy. Not despite what happened to me, but because of it. Because I learned who I really am, what I'm capable of, how strong I can be when everything tries to break me. I learned that family isn't just blood. It's the people who show up, who support you, who love you even when you're broken. I learned that love doesn't have to be perfect to be real, that trust can be rebuilt, that second chances are worth taking. Most importantly, I learned that losing everything isn't the end. It's just the beginning of something new, something better, something mine. So thank you again for reading, for caring, for following my story. I hope it's given you something. Hope, courage, the knowledge that you're not alone, because you're not. None of us are. We're all just trying to survive, to find our way, to build lives worth living. And that's okay. That's more than okay. That's everything. This is Nora Chen signing off for real this time. Goodbye.